Spurs streak snapped. The NBA reactions from a huge weekend with Tom Haberstroh. Wizards with John Wall going to join us. We'll get his thoughts from a legend's eyes to our ears. Ed, one man's trash is another man's quarterback this offseason. Going to be rough. Yahoo Sports Daily starts right now. Caroline Fenton, I'm Jason Fitz. For the next 2 hours, we're rack stacked to packed at Yahoo Sports Daily, here to get you caught up on everything you need to know from a massive weekend. We've got some huge guests. It's going to be spectacular, but we start, Caroline, as we have for many days in a row. The Combine, we finally finished it. The experiment, the underwear Olympics, all of the fun in Indianapolis. Figured we could take a look, now that the dust is settled, at some of the winners and losers from what was a wild week in Indy. So, my friend, when I say Combine winner to you, what stands out? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
I think it has to be Sonny Styles. And I know that we are several days removed and several quarterback workouts removed and several bold, things that people have said to the media and at the podium removed from what we saw from Sonny Styles. But we saw what might be one of the greatest Combine performances in the history of the NFL Combine. And the fact that we are still talking about Sonny Styles' performance in an era where it does feel like the Combine is a little bit undervalued or valued less than maybe it was a decade to 2 decades ago. But when you see a guy who put on a true freak of nature performance like Sonny Styles did, weighed in at 6'5", 244, a 43.5-inch vertical. That's the best in more than 20 years. When Sonny Styles ran a 4.46 40, I'm old enough to remember when 4.46 was fast for a receiver. And now we have a linebacker at 250 running a 4.46. I mean, the performance that we saw from Sonny Styles, and Sonny Styles was projected going into the Combine to be a first-round pick. But now I think with the performance that we saw Sonny Styles give in Indianapolis, I think Sonny Styles won't just be a top 10 pick, but I think there's a legitimate chance that Sonny Styles could be a top 5 pick and potentially the first defensive player off the board.
You're right. The measurables absolutely fly. And, I love the fact that the world now finds out that his given name isn't Sonny. He was just nicknamed that because even as a kid, he had that Scarface sort of mentality. So his parents nicknamed him Sonny. You take all of these things.
That's true.
With Combine. Yeah, that is true. That is his mom came out and told the world that it's a nickname from him having a very mafia-like disposition all the way as a kid. So, I look at Sonny as everything that's great about the Combine, because certainly one of the things that can be really difficult is trying to figure out how different styles of play translate. When you see somebody come out and just explode the way he athletically exploded, and it matches somebody that was already perceived to be a top half of the first round sort of guy, it sort of adds to that. I get worried when it's a wild amount of flair for somebody that maybe wasn't projected that high. But to your point, absolutely, he was already somebody we had our eyes on. Now everybody's salivating for him just because the measurables are through the roof. The word on the street was that his interviews were incredible too. You're 1,000% right. He's a massive winner with the way that he was able to run through this. And again, to see some of his numbers here, like a better vertical than DK, a better broadhead, that's a wide receiver. We're comparing him to a wide receiver for a linebacker at this point. And one thing we know that is that linebackers are asked to do a lot of different things in the NFL. So I love your call from there. I'll give you a different winner. Again, not a name that we weren't already in love with, but Jeremiah Love feels like he has absolutely exploded. I saw this morning Dan Orlovsky saying that Jeremiah Love is the best player in this draft. If we just take position out of everything, he's number one. That's not a new sentiment suddenly. And you saw how fast he ran. You saw how freakishly athletic he is. You saw everything about Jeremiah Love. And this is where we start to have the conversation about where you take a running back. I get it. But if we're just talking about eliminating any questions, Jeremiah Love, I already think, didn't have many question marks to come in with anyway. But when you actually saw him through the course of Indy, I think he absolutely stamped himself as a valuable, there is no chance in my mind Jeremiah Love makes it to 5. So if you want him, you better get him in the top 5 at this point, especially after the performance he just had in Indy.
You don't think he falls out of the top 5?
I don't think he falls out of the top 5. I know, running back or not. I think he falls. I think we're looking at a top 5 pick for a running back. Yep. I said it. I'll stand by it. 10 toes in the ground on it. Same 40 as Jameer, and he's 15 pounds heavier. oh my God, like he's a truck that runs with an engine of a Ferrari. My God.
I mean, look, running backs need love too, and we don't give nearly enough love, pun intended, to running backs. So look, I love that, again, pun intended, that you're giving credit where credit is due. Because I talked to Jeremiah Love at the Super Bowl. I asked him, what NFL running back reminds you of you? And he did say Jahmyr Gibbs. And he did tell me, he said, look, in the NFL, I'll play receiver. Like if that's where my greatest value is at the next level, then sure, I'll run, I'll block, I'll catch, I can run routes. Like put me in wherever you need me, coach. So I think it's that kind of mentality. One, that's incredibly rare. And I think something that any coach or general manager in the NFL would be looking for. But also in the same breath, it's not just the fact that he's willing to do it. It's the fact that he can. It's the fact that he 1000% say, hey, Jeremiah, go run a go route and beat a corner 40 yards downfield. He can do it. So, yeah, I do think Jeremiah Love is one of those, like a Brock Bowers, that I say, hey, take the positional tag away from him and just view him as a chess piece. You view him as an offensive weapon, because that's exactly how he is. Don't get blindsided or blindfolded to the fact that he has a running back next to his name. Jeremiah Love makes 32 teams in the NFL better.
Yeah, so that look, I love that call, and I love winners in this. I'm gonna give you another winner. Somebody else said like we're poly positive on this Monday morning. Quarterbacks at the top of the draft this year. One, I'm gonna give you two. Obviously, we all know my man crush on Fernando Mendoza isn't going anywhere. I thought it was hysterical that people reacted to his weight, but his weight did come in about 15 pounds heavier than most people expected. He is officially at 265 pounds. He is officially Josh Allen size. And he doesn't look to be Josh Allen size, but my God, he showed that he's much thicker. Like his bones must weigh a lot because certainly people fell in love with that. But also Ty Simpson went out. Ty Simpson threw. We knew Ty Simpson was going to throw. He threw incredibly well. I think he really helped himself in the process of this draft because he doesn't have as much time on task. He doesn't have as much film. He doesn't have as much footage. There were going to be some question marks. I think he's now clearly separated himself. If there was a question about whether or not there would be two quarterbacks taken in the first round, I think the Combine answered that question. Ty Simpson, while I think might in some years be a second-round pick, this year is going to be a first-round pick. A, because everybody needs a quarterback, but B, because he really showed out and showed himself well in the interviews and on the field. So I think Ty's a big winner out of this one.
I knew that Ty Simpson was just going to blow GMs and scouts away in interviews. We've seen what he can do physically. We understand his knowledge of the game. We've seen his arm. I mean, Alabama had 0 run game this past year. Ty Simpson was Alabama's offense, so we know what he physically is capable of. But Ty Simpson, when you say, coach's kid, coach's son, Ty Simpson fits that to a T. He is a coach's son, but there's so much about the way that Ty Simpson's brain works that no one person is bigger than the team. It's the team before me. I'll do whatever it takes to win. Winning is the most important thing. My team is the most important thing. Like Ty Simpson just has, his brain works exactly a way that you would want your franchise quarterback's brain to work. But I'm not going to let you have all of the quarterback fun, Fitzy. I'll throw another winner out there for you. Maybe a little bit of a deep cut, maybe a little bit off the beaten path. But I think Taylon Green, the quarterback from Arkansas, was a winner this past weekend. One reason for that is the market. We have so many quarterback needy teams that there are probably GMs for so many teams that are like, okay, we want to take a quarterback. You just tell us why you're worthy of the pick. And I think Taylon Green did exactly that. He broke Anthony Richardson's QB jump record, 43 and a half. And I mean, if you remember Anthony Richardson's pro day and combine, I mean, he just blew everyone away. It was a big reason why, with as little experience that he had in the college game, he still went top 5 and went to the Colts. He also ran a 4.37. Taylon Green as a quarterback. That, again, that's a wide receiver 40 time. That's wide receiver speed. And also Taylon Green just, he's fits the bill. He has the size. He has the speed. So I think in a world where everybody's looking to upgrade at the quarterback position, or at least close to everybody is looking to upgrade at that position, Taylon Green firmly positioned himself to be taken at I'm not going to say in the first round, but I would say he probably worked his way into a day 2 pick.
Well, and part of what I love here is I'm in a copycat league. It's really hard to find another Taysom Hill But Taysom Hill has been a cheat code for a long time for the Saints. It's immediately what I thought of when I saw his numbers. If you can bring somebody in, especially because part of the beast of Anthony Richardson was that they were bringing him in with the 4th overall pick. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, he's got to get on the field. He's got to play. Taylor's not going to have that expectation. So when you look at some of the records that he sent there and just the athleticism, even if all you do is bring him in and say, hey, we're going to slow develop a backup quarterback here that we're going to build a lot of packages for, and he's going to find ways to get us points in goal situations, it's a cheat code. So I think there's a real opportunity for Taylor to carve out a role in the league that wouldn't have existed. I absolutely love that call by you. Let's take the opposite side, though. For every action, there's an equal opposite, whatever. But let's give the losers. There has to be some people that stand out. So who do you think sort of had a rough experience in Indy?
Well, one guy that was kind of on my radar outside of Jeremiah Love at the running back position was Emmett Johnson, a running back from Nebraska who's top 5 in rushing yards in college football this past season. I didn't think he was going to be a day 1 pick, but I did think he had the resume and had the opportunity to be the 2nd running back taken in this draft, wherever that might fall. Emmett Johnson was slow in his 40. He ran a 4.6 40 at the time when he ran it. That was the worst of all running backs at the combine. I believe he ended up being 10th in running backs at the combine. You can't run a 4.6 and expect GMs or scouts to kind of give you the benefit of the doubt. So I think a guy that had a lot of buzz going into the combine definitely dinged his draft stock.
Yeah, it's so tough, too, because there's just speed is such a variable that they're looking at so much at certain positions. And it ties into one of my losers for this year's combine, too, is Carnell Tate, who I think we can both agree is an unquestionably talented wide receiver. But anytime you run a 40 at the wide receiver position now, 4.53, but anytime you run a 40 and almost immediately have reporters coming out saying, wait, some teams had him clocked even faster. Like that tells you something, right? Adam Schefter coming out and saying, hey, he was timed by several executives ahead of that time that we saw overall. So while that's his official time, it was faster elsewhere. That just felt like such messaging from somebody's agent somewhere in Carnell Tate's camp to make sure that they try and clean up some of the damage that comes in. We put a little bit too much emphasis on speed, in my opinion, at the wide receiver and the running back position, both because it's all about separation. But again, we talked about this last week. I think we have to have, Caroline, some reminder in our bodies here that when you play for major colleges, and the guys we're talking about both in these situations, they wore tracking devices. Like, I hope that the numbers on these guys show a better level of speed, but it certainly feels like this is why so many guys skip running the 40, because now we're in a society where 4.53 makes you so slow that people wonder if you should be drafted top at a wide receiver position. That just seems crazy to me, but that's where we are.
And look, speed is so valued at that position. I think we also have to understand it's not everything. I remember when DeAndre Hopkins' speed was a big time question mark, and DeAndre Hopkins is one of the most reliable receivers in the NFL, or at least has been and was a game-changing type of player, at least when he was in his prime. I do think when you're a receiver that comes from Ohio State, there's a little bit of benefit of the doubt that comes because wide receivers from Ohio State feel like as close to a can't-miss prospect as anyone. I remember last year when Emeka Egbuka was going through the draft, there were some big questions of how much of it was Emeka Egbuka and how much of it was Emeka Egbuka got open so often in college because so many defenders were paying attention to Carnell Tate and to Jeremiah Smith. We see the rookie season that Emeka Egbuka had, and we feel like that Tampa receiver room is in really good hands with or without Mike Evans. So I think that, we look at receivers from Ohio State in a certain light, and Carnell Tate will absolutely, I believe, get a benefit of the doubt from that. But there's a reason why they have a combine. There's a reason why these players run the 40s, and there's a reason why the separation between so many of these prospects is razor thin. Any, bullet point or any area on your resume could make you fall from a top 5 pick to the 25th overall pick or 25th pick in the first round of the draft. So look, it's not great. It wasn't great for Carnell Tate. I don't think it's going to be enough to take him off your board entirely, but it makes me look at him as a prospect, at least in a slightly different light.
And this is the hardest part about all of it, is that these are all data points, and you can get sucked up into giving too much emphasis to one or the other data, and it gets really difficult. But also, it should be acknowledged that we went through this entire scouting combine that's now been turned into a TV event by the NFL in Carolina. Wasn't lost on me that only one running back even ran the 3-cone drill, right? Like, so few prospects compared to most years actually participated. This is becoming a bit of a worst case scenario. It was pointed out to me by somebody much smarter than I am that a big part of why the combine even happens in Indy is the medical facilities are there. That's why it's always in Indianapolis. They have ease to the hospitals that do all of the imaging and all of the medical work. And on top of that, the interviews take place. There's tremendous value to that. We're not questioning any of that. But I wonder how the league feels about televising an event where you're not televising the interviews and you're not televising the medicals. You're televising, frankly, a bunch of people running around. Well, if nobody's running around and none of the stars are participating, what are you actually televising anymore? So I wonder how the NFL is going to long-term react to the fact that so many top prospects understand that there's very little value to them participating in these drills. And now all of a sudden you have a TV product that lasts multiple days that is just a terrible TV product.
It definitely feels like the combine has decreased in popularity, mostly because the teams are telling us that it doesn't matter. Liam Cohen and the Jags brass weren't there. The Rams haven't gone in the last several years. Kyle Shanahan isn't there. Like, it's not the same kind of, we put all of our eggs into the basket of the combine, and it's a who's who of scouts and GMs and coaches that are there. And it's still that. Like, you're still going to get a ton of scouts. You're still going to get a whole lot of the NFL brass that show up the weekend of the combine in Indianapolis. But it's kind of the same thing that I'll talk about the NBA All-Star game. If the players don't care, why should I? Well, if some of the best coaches in the league don't care about the combine, then why should I? But the fact remains that we are obsessed with football, anything football. So if we're not going to have actual football that's being played on a field, well, then we'll take any itty bitty little thing that resembles football and we're going to absolutely fall over head over heels in love with it. So even if it does feel undervalued, even if it does feel less important now than it ever has, we are still gluttonous for any sort of football content that we can get. It still very much so matters in what we do and what they do.
Yeah, I mean, only the NFL can market people running around in their underwear and make us all watch. And it works every single time. All right, from action that doesn't matter to action that absolutely does. It was a huge weekend in the NBA, including that team, that city, where not only was Caroline there, but so was Tom Haberstroh. We'll get Tom's thoughts on everything we saw over the course of the weekend.
Who's the dream fight? Like, who's the final boss for you?
Nyla Inoue.
Yeah, that's the one, huh?
Yeah, I feel like he's the guy.
What a freaking fight that would be.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
How far away do you think you are from this, like, maybe being a thing?
I would say maybe a year.
Yeah.
Maybe just a year away. Yeah, it's
the
right
dream
there.
to try to, like, get more belts so that entices him to come after you? Okay.
100%. He's going to get a wake-up call fighting a guy like me.
And Kenneth Walker wins Super Bowl MVP.
The way he's kind of molded his game to work for him has been fun because it's such a hard turn from where he started. Sometimes it feels like a more dramatic version of like how Le'Veon Bell used to run the ball, how Le'Veon would stop and wait and see things open. But Le'Veon, like, he was hugging the ass of his centers and his guards. Kenneth is like, he's like step back so he can see the whole picture open up. And then when it hits, he's off.
The Sixers, to me, are the biggest loser of the trade deadline. You get these middling picks for Jared McCain, one of your most promising young players, to duck the tax. Just a joke. If I'm a Sixers fan, I'm infuriated. The Sixers, losers this trade deadline. It's just so disappointing for Philadelphia, man.
Who in college football could experience that same level of redemption arc? And I was thinking, we've actually kind of seen it a little bit in the past. I'd say Jaden Daniels did. Remember when his teammates were like throwing his things out of his locker and talking trash about him when he left Arizona State, and then he goes and wins the Heisman at LSU?
It was a little bit of a turnaround. I wonder what those guys are doing now.
Oh, what do we have here? All right, we got a little bit of popcorn from there. Tom Haberstroh getting the popcorn. What? Tom's losing the popcorn. Tom had the popcorn. Tom lost the popcorn. Man, arena popcorn, I don't know, like that. It hits different. I don't know how I feel in this moment about Lamar Hurd just stealing Tom Haberstroh's popcorn. Tom, what are we doing out here?
Yeah, as Kevin O'Connor said, I got loose handles and very turnover prone. So I got to work on my handles, keeping possession of the ball when it matters most, guys.
You know what?
You got those butterfingers.
See, literally. Popcorn. It's not. It's the butter. Was it? Did you pay for that popcorn or was it pressed popcorn? That's total.
That's pressed popcorn, baby. Okay. You know, I was telling the guys, Steph Curry, who's a Charlotte native, he actually is obsessed with popcorn. Like he has a power ranking of every popcorn, arena popcorn in the NBA. And I got to say, his hometown team got to step up the game. So if Steph Curry can talk to his dad, who's on the play-by-play for the Hornets, we got to get improved popcorn. Maybe that's the next level that the Charlotte Hornets can get to after this winning streak.
Oh, that was.
See, Tom, I learned that the hard way. As a fan at the game on Saturday, I learned that after paying $12 for arena popcorn, that it was average. I know, it was fine.
Look,
But I was at that game, Tom. I got to be a fan, got to just enjoy a sporting event, which is not something that we get to do very often in our profession. So I'm riding the high of the Charlotte Hornets. We're going to play a little overreaction or underreaction game with you as we go throughout the association. So I will start right there in the city where we both live with the Charlotte Hornets. Overreaction or underreaction after a big game against the Blazers on Saturday. The Hornets are capable of winning a first-round series.
Oh, underreaction. They absolutely can win a first-round series. They're 19-9 since January 1st. They have the best offensive rating in the NBA over that time. Con Knipple, Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, they're healthy. They're playing together. And yes, they're showering Con Knipple with water for shattering the rookie three-point record in February. We've never seen a guy make more threes in the first year of his NBA career than Con Knipple, and he did it before March. It's astounding. The number 1, 2, and 4 guys in three-pointers made in the NBA since January 1st are all Charlotte Hornets, with LaMelo Ball leading the way. This team, it's not just that they're winning, it's how they're winning. They're blowing out really good teams. Remember, January 5th was the statement game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. They blew them out by like 27 points. And they did it again against the Denver Nuggets, the Houston Rockets. They beat the Lakers, beat Philly, Orlando, Atlanta twice. And so all these teams that are above them in the standings, they treat them like doormats. And the Hornets are for real, guys. Like when you look at the numbers beyond just the record, they also are the number 1 rebounding team in the NBA since January 1st. So when we look at LaMelo Ball, Con Knipple, and the way he's taken over this team and turned it around, they're doing it in ways that aren't really synonymous with the Charlotte Hornets. They play tough. They play in the three-point line is the really big weapon for them. And the way that they play is something that I think every first-round opponent is got to be terrified about, because the high variance of that three ball, when they've got it going, they're going to blow you out. And because they've relied on that three ball more than just about every team in the NBA, it is really scary if you're going to go against them, because they can go on a run and blow you out in like 5 minutes. And so the Charlotte Hornets, the high variance, this kind of reminds me of that Nelly Ball, Steven Jackson, Baron Davis, Golden State Warriors team, the We Believe Warriors that upset the Dallas Mavericks because they play this unorthodox style. I think you're going to see a lot of comparisons to that team with this one, because I think they could upset a team, whether it's a 1-8 matchup or a 2-7, but don't count them out on getting a number 5 or the number 6 seed. That's how good they're playing, and they still got about 25 games to go.
All right, so let's keep the overreaction, underreaction. Oh, go ahead, Caroline.
Well, which of the top 4 seeds do you think would be the best matchup for Charlotte?
Oh, great question. I think the Detroit Pistons might be the best matchup because they don't shoot the three ball. They're very low variance in terms of the Pistons. When you're going against that Pistons squad, you normally would see that their rebounding edge would be the X factor over their opponents. The Charlotte Hornets are the best rebounding team since January 1st, and they're not a great three-point shooting team, the Pistons. And so if you're looking for upset potential, I think you got to look at that Pistons team. We haven't seen the Charlotte Hornets play the Boston Celtics yet this season, so keep an eye on that as we go forward.
All right, so let's take a look at New York while we go overreaction, underreaction, because a week and a half ago, everybody in New York was yelling that the Knicks were bums. Now they take down the Spurs. They snap the 11-game win streak. So overreaction, underreaction, the Knicks have figured things out and turned a corner.
I got to go overreaction with this one. The New York Knicks, until they ramble off like a 5-game win streak that doesn't involve the Milwaukee Bucks, I'm not going to buy them as serious title contenders at this point. The Knicks are just like every other team at the top where they have a lot of warts, and we're not necessarily saying they can't win the East, but one game does not make me feel super confident about this team. They've gotten Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges here and there playing up to their abilities, but getting them playing very well consistently, I haven't seen it enough for them to say that they've turned a corner. They blew out the Milwaukee Bucks before the San Antonio Spurs game, but I want to see more from the New York Knicks. I'm not totally sold that they're going to suddenly be vying for that number 1 seed in the East.
All right, overreaction, underreaction as we head out to the West Coast. I know the Lakers have snapped their 3-game losing streak with a couple of wins, but we did just have that total late game blunder between Luka and LeBron. I don't think any of us view the Lakers as an overly terrifying team in the West. So overreaction, underreaction. The Lakers are the Cowboys of the NBA. They are all show and not a whole lot of winning.
All right. I guess if the comparison is to the Dallas Cowboys, I will say that's an underreaction. I like this comparison that they drive the most eyeballs in the league, but in terms of the actual substance, you have to point to the fact that Luka Doncic and LeBron James still in this NBA season, they're underwater when it comes to the point differential with those two guys on the floor. The worst plus minus on the team when you look at duos for the Lakers involves LeBron James and Luka Doncic. So this team still has an awkward fit. Two guys who really don't dig in defensively, dominating the ball. And Austin Reeves is not an all-world defender either. So I think this team is way too lopsided on the offensive end. And yes, they did get that win over the Sacramento Kings, but they're the Sacramento Kings, right? Like I feel like winning against the Sacramento Kings shouldn't even count as a win at this point, considering they are the worst team by a wide margin in the NBA. And then their other win recently was against the Golden State Warriors without Steph Curry, without Jimmy Butler, without Kristaps Porzingis. So winning against the B team of the Warriors and the Sacramento Kings, I don't think it's anything that you should write home about. But the Lakers, congratulations. They have a point differential in the positive with Luka Doncic, LeBron James, and Austin Reeves this season. Heading into these last 2 games, it was minus 18 in 238 minutes with their big 3 on the floor. I'm going to repeat that. The Lakers were outscored by opponents with Austin Reeves, LeBron James, and Luka Doncic on the floor this season, and they went plus 26 over the weekend. So that means congratulations. They are an above water team when it comes to that plus minus column with their 3 best players on the team. So they don't have great defense. I'm not sold on them on being a real legitimate Western Conference contender.
So you mentioned that they waxed Golden State. Without Kristaps, misses a 4 straight game, mystery illness going on here. So overreaction, underreaction. Golden State will regret trading Kuminga for the Latvian big man. What say you?
Oh, they might end up regretting this trade, but I'm not going to overreact to 2 games against the Washington Wizards with Kuminga coming off the bench in the majority of these games. It's 3 games, guys, okay? This is the problem with the tanking in the NBA is that I got to come on here and explain the context of some of these wins in the NBA. On the front of the jersey, it's the Lakers beat the Golden State Warriors by a zillion points, but their best players were out. And the same thing with the Washington Wizards. We have to keep in mind that Kuminga just beat the Portland Trail Blazers last night. I covered that game for the Blazers broadcast. There was no Denny Avdia. Rob Williams III has been their best defender as of late, and he was not in uniform. Neither was Shaedon Sharpe. Washington Wizards, he came off the bench, did really well, and he had an amazing 3-game set here. But until the Atlanta Hawks play some real fierce competition and Kuminga continues this run, I'm not going to say that they're immediately going to regret this decision, but it is very concerning. What Kristaps Porzingis has not been healthy enough. They haven't figured out the illness. Still, Steve Kerr regrets the comments that he made over the weekend regarding his diagnosis and his medical situation. It's a really unfortunate situation because I got to imagine that Stephen Curry is looking at this as a lost season. No Jimmy Butler, no Jonathan Kuminga, and Draymond Green simply hasn't been good enough to carry this team without Stephen Curry. It's been a tough season for the Warriors, but I'm not willing to say just yet 2 games out of 3 against the Washington Wizards. Congratulations, Jonathan Kuminga. But I'm not willing to say under reaction that they're going to regret this decision quite yet, guys.
Okay, so I appreciate how measured you are with that one. What about the Nuggets? All right, the Nuggets, they're 4-6 in their last 10. Okay, so they've fallen all the way to the 5 seed. We're a very pro-Nuggets show here. So overreaction or underreaction as Denver waits for him to come back. Aaron Gordon is the biggest X factor of the Western Conference playoffs.
Oh, I love that. Underreaction. Speak it louder for the people in the back. Aaron Gordon is so good defensively. Not a great shot blocker, but a great rim protection in terms of you're not going to be going at him when you see him coming off the weak side. And according to advanced metrics, he has a 96 percentile in defensive impact. He's so strong, so smart. And in the postseason, man, if he was healthy, he was playing on one leg against the Oklahoma City Thunder. If he was healthy, I think they win that series or potentially go on and win the championship if Aaron Gordon was 100%, but he wasn't. And now this season, he's been hampered by hamstring injuries. And it's just really unfortunate because without him, I just don't think they can reach their ceiling. And with this Nuggets team, yes, they're offensively elite with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, but they're a bottom 10 defensively this season. And a big reason why is they don't have that guy who can switch 1 through 5 on the roster, up and down the roster. Aaron Gordon, absolutely the X factor in the Western Conference. If he can get healthy, watch out. The Oklahoma City Thunder, San Antonio Spurs, this is going to be an open West race if Aaron Gordon is healthy. But if he's not, I'm afraid I can't put the Denver Nuggets in that top tier.
So, Tom, I am fairly new to Charlotte, so I've been embracing all things Charlotte, North Carolina, rooting for the Hornets, drinking a whole lot more cheer wine than I ever have in my whole entire life, but also watching more NASCAR. So you are a North Carolinian as well, so maybe you know a little thing or two about NASCAR, but I watched Michael Jordan just win his 3rd consecutive race, or at least his driver of the team that he owns won his 3rd consecutive race. So overreaction or underreaction, Michael Jordan is a far better NASCAR owner than he was an NBA owner.
Underreaction. It's an awesome story what Michael Jordan's doing in the NASCAR series, but I gotta say the bar is pretty low, guys, in terms of whether he's a better owner in NASCAR than in the NBA. Remember, he was 177 games under 500 as the owner of the Charlotte Hornets. The best thing he did was bring back the purple and teal, bring back the Hornets name. But remember, he is in the record books for overseeing the worst win percentage in NBA history with that 7-59 team back in 2012. And I look, it's not a high bar, but I don't want to kind of demean what he's doing over on the motor speedways. It's a really cool story, and I do think it's evidence that sometimes these players are better when they're taken out of the executive role in their sports because they can look at this clear-eyed and not hearkening back to when they were in their playing days. But saying Michael Jordan is a better NASCAR owner than he is an NBA owner is a lot like saying Magic Johnson is a better NBA player than he was a late-night TV host. The bar is not very high, guys.
Let's get one more before we get you out. We'll get you one more quick one. We had a big weekend, obviously, in the East. I was riveted by Detroit, Cleveland on Friday night. Boston looks impressive. So overreaction, underreaction. Either Boston or Detroit will represent the East in the finals.
Ooh, this is really good. I like the overreaction on this one because the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think with James Harden and now Evan Mobley coming back, I think the jury is out is whether they're actually the Detroit Pistons or the Boston Celtics are the favorites in the Eastern Conference. Now, James Harden does have a fractured thumb where the very tip of his thumb, there is a very small fracture that he's playing through. So that is an area of concern for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But this is an open race. And if Jason Tatum comes back and it's kind of an awkward fit, trying to bring him back and integrating him into the Boston Celtics offense, I could see a little bit of uncertainty with the Boston Celtics, even though they've been rolling as of late. And so I think that the way that James Harden has integrated himself with the Cavs, I think it's an open race. So I'm going to say overreaction that it's basically Detroit and Boston. And keep in mind, again, if one of those two teams, Boston or the Detroit Pistons, face the Charlotte Hornets in the first round, I don't think they feel very good about that at all, considering that their home run grand slam variants of the Charlotte Hornets, it could be really interesting if they face off that team in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. So keep an eye on the Charlotte Hornets as they continue to tear through the NBA with the best record since January 1.
This is just one of 100 reasons why you need to check out Tom's title tiers. You can subscribe at tomthefinder.com. Tom Haberstroh, we appreciate you, my friend. Guard the popcorn better next time. We'll all learn from it, but we appreciate you with all your expertise.
Thanks, guys.
Great
Thanks,
stuff from Tom, as always. Coming up next, I just want Pirates fans to have hope, and I'm not sure they do, but they might for a minute. We'll tell you about it next.
Peterson looked like the clear-cut number one pick in the first half of that game. He looked like the clear-cut number one pick. The fluidity on the floor, the ease in which he moved off ball defensively, creating havoc. He looked majestic.
Sometimes it just comes down to as simple as like, this dude moves the way basketball players are born to move. Was Kevin Durant the last college scorer that made it look as effortless?
Did you go to the casino after the fight?
Hell yeah.
How'd you do?
We're up.
Up?
We're up.
Well done.
We're up.
Were you just walking around there after the fight and people recognizing you? Like, weren't you the guy that was just on the UFC?
Yeah, that's where I get recognized the most.
Really?
The other gambling legends, everyone recognizes me there. Anywhere else I go, no one knows me. But if I go there, everyone points me out.
The 72 Dolphins is infamously the no-name defense. This one's the too-many-name defense.
Too many names,
Too many names.
Defenses were ahead of offenses this season for a lot of it. Like the best teams in the NFL had the best defenses. We're sitting here talking about this defense and how good it was and how hard it is to isolate one player. And yeah, that's the sport of football. It's a team sport. It's hard to isolate individual players, and Seattle really exemplified that all year.
We're ranking the actual threats from the absolute frauds.
Your contenders, who do you got?
My contenders. So I have Sporting, and I say that because they have had a strong top 8 finish over some other heavyweight teams. They're actually very, very hard to break down as a squad, and they're very, very strong in transition.
And they got a guy named Luis Suarez, which is fun.
Guard your ears.
The Cardinals are introducing a ticket package starting at $29 that includes bottomless soda, hot dogs, chicken tendies, brats, nachos, fries, popcorn, peanuts, chips, hell, even ice cream. Oh, you're talking my language here. Look, I'm a lifelong diehard, year and a half Dodgers fan, but suddenly I'm reconsidering some things around here. The Cardinals with the unlimited concessions immediately makes me think of you, though, Caroline Fenton. You are a lifelong diehard Cardinals fan. What say you to this moment from your team?
Actually, lifelong diehard Cardinals fan of all of the years of my life. Fitz just is on the bandwagon of the Dodgers, which I don't think should be allowed.
Correct.
I do think that you should have to be like an Angels fan or a Pirates fan for just a short period of time in your life just to know what misery is truly like. But you're a Raiders fan, so I guess you get your fill there. I'm born and raised in St. Louis. had season tickets to Cardinals games my whole life, didn't miss a single opening day when I was growing up as a kid in St. Louis. I love the Cardinals. That's like the team that I get to be a true unadulterated fan of. I will never hide my fandom for the Cardinals. But I tweeted out, I remember a time, I'm old enough to remember when the Cardinals didn't need gimmicks to get butts in seats. Now, I understand, and I had so many people tweeting me like, no, I've been wanting my team to do this forever. Concessions are too expensive. It's too expensive to go to games these days. I get it. I hear that. I understand that. I don't have a problem with, cheap concessions. And especially, too, like, shout out to the Cardinals for the brat thing, because brats are way better than hot dogs. That is a true Midwestern take right there. So I do appreciate that it's the brats and not hot dogs. It's actually the good. It's the good stuff. But this is a gimmick. Like, that's what it is. You're trying to just get butts in seats. And I remember when a ticket to a Cardinals game was the hottest ticket in town. I remember when it was a midweek, midday, 1:15 first pitch in July in the heat of summer. It was 100 degrees and you're sitting in beating sunlight. Your face is red. Your scalp is burned before you even sit down into your seats. And it was still sold out because the team was good. And Cardinals fans are diehards. They will be there no matter what. But people haven't been wanting to go because the team sucks. They're sending a message to ownership that, look, we're not spending our money to come to these games to watch this team get beat up, watch this team be terrible, because ownership hasn't shown any sort of interest in investing money into the on-the-field product. So, look, I think that this is just the perfect example of when you're winning, everything is wonderful, and when you're losing, everything is terrible. When you're winning, you'll pay the price for, a $20 beer and a $14 hot dog because the team is good. And when you're losing, even very fairly priced concessions feel like it's awful and a gimmick because the team sucks. Just win. That's all anyone cares about, which makes me roll my eyes so much when we hear Artie Moreno, the owner of the LA Angels or the Anaheim Angels, wherever the heck they are these days, when Artie Moreno says, hey, we did a fan survey and winning wasn't even in the top 5 of fans' priorities. Bullcrap. Of course it is. That's all anyone ever cares about. The Cardinals are trying to do something nice here and offer up cheap concessions, and I'm over here being a curmudgeon because the team stinks.
Yeah, you're not wrong. When we were touring and we would go around and have days off, always loved going to baseball games. One of the toughest places to get in the early 2010 to 2015 era was St. Louis. Like, you really had to make a bunch of phone calls and try. I've been to several games at that stadium. It's a beautiful stadium, and you're right. I always manage to get sunburned in the first 10 minutes. But to your point, I think what really stood
underrated
out to me is,
sunshine.
100%. You know that you're hitting on all cylinders when all the group texts blow up about something. I have 2 really prominent group texts in my life that are all guys that just love sports, right? And each of them sent me the tweet of the unlimited concessions immediately with, let's plan a trip. Like, I am genuinely now suddenly with one of those groups planning a summer trip to St. Louis simply for 2 reasons. 1, we want to watch the game, but 2, we want to record and see how many calories can we consume. I mean, 29. Look, I've literally been asked to leave an all-you-can-eat sushi place in LA years ago where it was all you can eat, you pay the one fee, and they finally came up and they're like, sir, you have to go. So, like, when you tell me all you can eat $30 and ice cream's included, I'm going to eat. Like, what are we talking, like the helmet? Because if it's a helmet and it's all you can eat ice cream, I'm going to have an ice cream an inning. Like 9 ice creams that's the start. That's the jumping off point. That doesn't include. And then, sodas, like, that's also going to look. I go to the movie theaters all the time and I get the super huge soda and I fill it 3 or 4 times during the course of a movie. So look, the Cardinals, y'all are going to lose money on me. At the end of the day, though, I do love this because, frankly, you're right. The team needs to get better. But in the meantime, let's all remember what Mark Cuban just told us, that when you're bad, experiences matter. I think this is about getting an experience. And frankly, I just can't wait for all you can eat ice cream. Also can't wait to break down the New England Patriots. What's going on with them post Super Bowl? Tom Curran going to join us. We'll get his thoughts on how they're creating the next level of greatness in New England.
You covered Darnold with the Jets. Where are you kind of just feeling about him
another game with 3 games in a row, no turnovers for Sam. The sack avoidance night from Sam was incredible. The back and forth between Sam and Milton Williams was honestly really impressive for Sam on my part, because I thought that it wasn't his best game of the season, but it was the game he needed to have, which was clean. He won the Super Bowl. He's going to get a contract extension. It's kind of cool to see his redemption story.
What was it like being at MSG? Like in the back, the locker room? Like, could you feel that it was a little different?
It's a total different experience from being there as a spectator to actually being there backstage and all of that stuff. Total different experience. I was so tuned into my fight. I don't even think I was looking at the referee. I'm just there, just kind of just like looking down. I'm listening to what he's saying. At the same time, I'm just thinking about the fight. I'm like, yeah, all right, y'all done? You ready? Right? Yeah. All right, it's time to go.
The Premier League has gotten so successful. Survival has become such a priority. Maybe that doesn't lead to the most entertaining football match.
The one thing that you want to avoid is having this runaway first place team by Boxing Day, which happens more often than not. This has been, I would argue, a little bit more exciting this season. The entire mid-table is packed.
Yeah.
So
as an Everton fan, I'm like, yeah, we in the mix.
For Clippers fans, I just feel bad, Tom. I mean, I feel bad. It's always something with the Clippers. It's always something. And then, the year begins and the whole aspiration thing, and then the team sucks. And then they start winning and they make a run and they're in the play-in and the playoffs are ahead. And then this all happens. James Harden does it again. He asks for another trade.
NBC Sports Boston tweets out, the Eagles have made it clear they're open to receiving calls on A.J. Brown. Phil Perry shared his Patriots-related NFL Combine on Brown, Max Crosby, other trades. To break some of this down now, Tom Curran joins us, longtime Patriots insider for NBC Sports Boston. Tom, we appreciate your time on this. What are you hearing at this point with it? We all want to put Vrabel and A.J. Brown back together. So how likely does that seem to you?
It seems as if the interest would be there. It seems as if the need is there. What's interesting is dealing with the cap implications that the Philadelphia Eagles are dealing with. So if the Eagles trade him before June 1st, they take a $43 million dead cap hit. It's paying $43 million against your cap to not have a player play for you. That's obscene. That can't happen. So whatever happens with A.J. Brown is probably going to have to either be consummated after June 1st or kind of just earmarked for being made official after June 1st. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is the Patriots have to wrestle with A.J. Brown. You're going to give up draft pick or picks, which will be certainly third or above. And then you're dealing with a manageable contract, but you're giving something up to bring somebody in to pay the same way you're paying Stephon Diggs. If you want to continue with Diggs, who also has his own financial implications coming up March 13th, when the Patriots have to give him a $6 million roster bonus to keep him here this year. So there's some wide-out conversations to be had for the Patriots.
And look, a post June 1st move is not unheard of. We've seen receivers moved closer to training camp. It's at least a little bit easier to swallow knowing that there is that existing relationship with Mike Vrabel and A.J. Brown. They know each other. Mike Vrabel knows how he wants to work and works within the confines of that offense. But you bring up what you would have to give up in order to trade for A.J. Brown. What have you heard? What do you think a trade package would look like to acquire A.J. Brown? And do you think the Patriots would be willing to give up that kind of capital?
I haven't really heard anything about compensation, just the things that come from Philadelphia or what the intimations are that they can't guarantee that he'll be back. So if they're listening for offers for a number one receiver who, regardless of the situation with Jalen Hurts, the offensive coordinator last year, did not have a statistically good year as Stephon Diggs did, how much are you going to give up? You're going to give up a 2? You're going to give up the 31st overall pick, your first rounder? That's a lot. How is he going to be? He's, I believe, 29. So you're going to sign up for 3 years of him at $20 million plus a year. honestly, I'm not hearing anything about what compensation is going to be demanded, but it's like with selling a house or a car or anything else. You're going to set the price high and then figure out if you can meet something that you will swallow hard and take. So would the Patriots be willing to give it up? I believe they do. The best thing to do, though, is watch that March 15th date and watch what happens with Diggs over the next, 11 days. We're already into halfway through March in 11 days.
So, Tom, educate me a little bit on the approach this offseason, because certainly the Patriots coming off of a Super Bowl loss, a year that they were ahead of their skis for a lot of us. They were better than most of us thought they would be. And then there's this argument of, well, were they great or was it the opponent? All of these things that everyone's talking about. From a Patriots organization standpoint, how are they approaching this offseason when last season ended with the Super Bowl loss? Does it make them more aggressive or less aggressive?
That's a great question, and one we've been trying to pose throughout the season. And Mike Vrabel and the front office staff have been very methodical in trying to say, look, we're not going to be swayed by what happened last year with our team. We're not going to fall in love. And they didn't say fall in love, but he did stress better, younger, cheaper. We need better depth, and there are some places at which we need starters. So that's good for a team that overachieved and got unbelievable contributions from guys that nobody else in the league really wanted. Mac Hollins or Stephon Diggs or Morgan Moses or Robert Spillane, who was a high-ticket free agent linebacker signing that was basically 61st on the NFL.com free agent rankings. So they got big contributions from those guys, but you can't look at that and say, well, that's the standard. That's going to happen every time. Can we get better? Can we get younger? Can we get cheaper? They want to be methodical about it. And the Washington Commanders had a terrific 2024, and they ran it back a little bit, and they also extended themselves with some free agents. And once their quarterback went down, they're now kind of, and there's probably Washington fans out here listening, and I'm not an expert on the Commanders roster, but they're a little bit mortgaged right now. The Patriots want to try and be more methodical with what they're doing, especially with May on his rookie contract.
Okay, you mentioned how Vrabel wants to get better, younger, and cheaper. I get that. Like, that sounds great in an ideal football universe, but I understand free agency to be that you are overpaying for a guy, or you're getting a guy that's old, or you're getting a guy that's banged up, or you're getting a guy that's not very good.
Yes.
So when you want to talk about getting better, younger, and cheaper, is there a guy in the free agent market that fits that description?
See, that's what's so difficult about it. And it's a great question because free agency has drastically changed because of the rapid inflation of the salary cap. It's at $301 million this year. I can't remember what it was 5 years ago. It was probably around 210, 220. So because it's expanded so rapidly, it makes older contracts that were at the top of the market 3 years ago extremely affordable. So teams are able to use that extra cap space and keep players around, like Ronnie Stanley or Chris Godwin last year. Patriots would have been interested in both of them. They never even hit the market because those teams were able to keep them around. In a way, the Patriots might have dodged a bullet with both players. So it's hard to pinpoint those places where you want to get better, younger, cheaper. I look at the Patriots offensive line, which needs some shoring up. And the two guys who stick out to me are Jack Conklin, who's been injured with Cleveland, a former very good tackle, and also Kevin Zeitler, who's, I believe, 34 years old and is, 14th year in the league at guard. But I look at all the other positions. Kyle Pitts is franchised. You go down the line, and it's hard to say, okay, this guy's definitely an upgrade. So free agency, we're going to go bananas next week talking about what teams should do. But the Patriots whiffed on all their big free agent signings, except for Milton Williams. And had they gotten Ronnie Stanley or Chris Godwin, they wouldn't have signed Milton Williams. So
I think we lost Tom here. Tom looks to be frozen a little bit here on us. We'll see if we can get Tom to reconnect for us. Caroline, it's just so interesting with the Patriots particularly because if we're being honest, last year, I think the Washington comp is a good one, right? They were so much better than anyone expected. Now they have to figure out how to rebuild. Tom, we've got you back. You were just talking about offensive linemen. I'll ask you this. Mike Vrabel, he loves T-Rex armed offensive linemen. We both saw it in Tennessee. And now we see Will Campbell getting a lot of heat, obviously, for the way the playoffs went down. How do they approach Will Campbell going into next season?
fix his damn MCL. I mean, he suffered an injury toward the end of the season that would have likely ended his career. Excuse me, career. Relax, mister. It would have likely ended his season if the Patriots didn't have more to play for. A guy gets an MCL injury in week 14 or so, leaves the field with a towel over his head and in tears, and he had a very good rookie season, in my estimation, up until then. And he came back, and he couldn't deal with Khalil Mack, and he played fine against Nick. Why am I saying Batonio? It's not his name. Benito. And then got dusted a little bit, obviously a lot of it actually, in the Super Bowl. But he didn't have a good time with Khalil Mack. Did okay against Houston. But a lot of it seemed to be technique. He's a 4th overall pick. There has to come a time at which you say you have to play like a 4th overall pick. We have to have extremely high expectations for you. But I think the mitigating circumstances with the knee make it that you have to look at it and say, he's going to get stronger. He's going to get better. I don't think it was necessarily arm length issues in those games. It wasn't the 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch in arm length. It was getting bull rushed by stronger, faster players that he wasn't able to neutralize.
Yeah, he definitely looked over his skis in the Super Bowl. He looked like a rookie that was seeing his first NFL postseason action, but that's not the only guy that I think has been under the microscope in New England and really nationally. Drake May has as well, and it is crazy to see the switch up. One day you're talking about how he's the next Tom Brady. The next you're talking about how he stinks and he's not the future of the organization. I always believe the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. What's been the fan temperature check on Drake May following the Super Bowl?
The fans love him. And I don't think the truth lies in the middle. I think the truth lies a hell of a lot closer to he's a franchise quarterback, and he's what you want to build around for a variety of reasons. But I think the playoff regression, if you want to call it that, when you go from 70% completion rate during the season, generate the kind of tight window accuracy that he did week after week, be as unbelievable as he was on 3rd and 10 plus, generate the number of first downs he did with his legs, regardless of the competition, which even the bad teams, if they were playing close games with the bad teams, you might have a point about the schedule, but they ass whipped them. So I look at Drake May and say they played against more difficult defenses, pass rushes. And really, the Super Bowl was the only game in which you could say, not good, because you have to factor in the 10 for 64 in the opening playoff game that he generated with his feet, the 10 for 65 against the Denver Broncos, and say that's part of the quarterback position. You might want to talk about passing, but if you have the luxury of having great legs, then you can say, okay, that's part of the quarterback position for him. That's part of him playing that spot. So include that in your conversation. I mean, it's amazing to me how many people jumped up on their soapbox after the performance of the Patriots offense in the Super Bowl and said, hey, Stafford was the MVP all along. No one was saying that after week 17 when Stafford threw 3 picks against Atlanta in a critical game in prime time. That's a team the Patriots beat. I mean, everything gets magnified. The recency bias that we see late in the season is certainly a part of it. But I don't think that there's a better young quarterback situation in the league when it comes to rookie contract and performance than what you have with May.
You guys can follow him on social media at Tom E. Curran. Tom, we always appreciate your brilliance, your insight. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for the breakdown on the Patriots. Enjoy a little bit of rest
have a great
before
rest
we get
of
to
the
the
day.
draft.
Sorry,
Great
didn't mean to
stuff from
talk over
Tom.
you.
No, you're good. It's great. It's great stuff from Tom as always. All right, coming up next, we're going to take a look at some of the biggest threats in all of women's college basketball. We'll do it next on Yahoo Sports Daily.
Who's the dream fight? Like, who's the final boss for you?
Nyla Inoue.
Yeah, that's the one, huh?
Yeah, I feel like he's the guy.
What a freaking fight that would be.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
How far away do you think you are from this, like, maybe being a thing?
I would say maybe a year.
Yeah.
Maybe just a year away. Yeah, it's
Is the
right
dream
there.
to try to, like, get more belts so that entices him to come after you?
100%.
Okay.
100%. He's going to get a wake-up call fighting a guy like me.
And Kenneth Walker wins Super Bowl MVP.
The way he's kind of molded his game to work for him has been fun because it's such a hard turn from where he started. Sometimes it feels like a more dramatic version of like how Le'Veon Bell used to run the ball, how Le'Veon would stop and wait and see things open. But Le'Veon, like, he was hugging the ass of his centers and his guards. Kenneth is he's like step back so he can see the whole picture open up. And then when it hits, he's off.
The Sixers, to me, are the biggest loser of the trade deadline. You get these middling picks for Jared McCain, one of your most promising young players, to duck the tax. Just a joke. If I'm a Sixers fan, I'm infuriated. The Sixers, losers this trade deadline. It's just so disappointing for Philadelphia, man.
Who in college football could experience that same level of redemption arc? And I was thinking, we've actually kind of seen it a little bit in the past. I'd say Jaden Daniels did. Remember when his teammates were like throwing his things out of his locker and talking trash about him when he left Arizona State, and then he goes and wins the Heisman at LSU?
It was a little bit of a turnaround. I wonder what those guys are doing now.
Audie Crooks went off for 41 in 30 to beat Kansas State. She ties Brittany Griner for the most 40-point games in Big 12 history with 5 of them. She is absolutely having an incredible season. And so we figured we'd take a look at some of the weekend action that we got in women's college basketball, and we would do one of our favorite constructs on it. We do a little triple threat. So this is where we're going to give you a take, and then we will shoot, pass, or dribble on 3 different women's college hoops takes. So let's start with Audie. Give her a little bit of love here. Shoot, pass, or dribble on this one, Caroline. Audie Crooks would be the most unstoppable player in March Madness. What say you?
I'm gonna pass on that, honestly. And that has nothing to do with Audie Crooks herself. I mean, you see it right there, 41-13 in 30 minutes. Like, Audie Crooks has been unstoppable. I mean, she's the second leading scorer in women's college basketball, and it's really kind of been her, Hannah Hidalgo, and Michaela Blake's lonely at the top in that category. Audie Crooks has the capability to take any game over. I mean, there are so many times where I'll watch Iowa State and opposing defenses will just throw their hands up. Like, what am I supposed to do to stop that? How am I supposed to stop her? She is such a sharpshooter, and just her size and physicality and presence on the floor is nearly unstoppable. So, I pass on that, not because of what she can bring to her team and what she can do in a certain game. I pass on it because I don't trust Iowa State to be able to do around her what is necessary to win games in the NCAA tournament. I mean, you have Audie Crooks, the second leading scorer in women's college basketball as a whole, but Iowa State is still 7th in the Big 12. When I look at the hierarchy and the powers that exist in the Big 12, which has been a super weird conference in women's college basketball, I trust TCU to make a run in the tournament. I trust Baylor to make a run in the tournament. But Iowa State doesn't do enough around Audie Crooks to win enough consecutive games to, make a run in this tournament. And if you're not making a run in the tournament, then I don't think that you're going to be able to, solidify yourself as a household name or as one of these rising stars that we see in the NCAA tournament. So I'll pass on that because I don't think that Iowa State is doing enough around Audie Crooks.
Look, your point's a valid one, and I dribble on it because I think she can be so dominant. But to me, a lot of this conversation comes back to Hannah Hidalgo, who you mentioned earlier. Also, by the way, had a monster game Sunday, 30 points, 10 boards, 7 assists, 6 steals against number 10 Louisville, right? So I just watched Hannah Hidalgo, who we know is a scoring superstar, be a scoring superstar against a better quality of opponent. And Notre Dame is a better basketball team. So I think it's hard to sort of, in my mind, it's hard to parse this out and make this Audie versus the field when Hannah has been absolutely so dominant. Also, should be noted that there's a team in UConn that has a couple of superstars on it, right? So there's plenty of different ladies that are vying for this title of unstoppable force throughout the NCAA tournament to me.
I think there's just so many stars in this sport right now. You mentioned AZ Fudd and Sarah Strong, and I think a lot of people are watching UConn women's basketball because they're not playing some of those marquee matchups because the Big East just is not strong. There's no reason for UConn to play those marquee primetime matchups. But I think a lot of people are going to catch on pretty quickly to the dominance that is UConn. I think that Lauren Betts at UCLA has the ability to be the most unstoppable player in March Madness. Michaela Blake's the leading scorer in women's college basketball right now at Vanderbilt. I mean, Michaela Blake's had 250 pieces last season. And now Michaela Blake's is following that up with a 25-point game any given night. Easy, no problem. I mean, Michaela Blake's is a massive reason why Vanderbilt finds themselves as the number 5 team in the country. I think that Madison Booker at Texas. I think that literally anyone on South Carolina's roster, Flau'jae Johnson at LSU, the list goes on and on and on of these big time star player, marquee kind of players that have the capability to be the quote unquote most unstoppable player in March Madness in the women's game.
Well, you mentioned UConn being undefeated. You see the graphic there. Let's get to our next question here, because UConn undefeated this regular season with a margin of victory at 38 points. That's like they're not just undefeated. They're kicking the snot out of everybody. So shoot, pass, or dribble. UConn's women's basketball, the most under-discussed story in all of sports right now. What say you?
Yeah. I will shoot on that 1000%. And we're not talking about it. I think it's for a few reasons. One being what I just laid out, that UConn, like I look at SEC matchups. On any given night, you could have a matchup of 2 top 10 teams or 2 top 25 teams. That's going to command more eyeballs and attention. You know, when UConn is playing the Georgetowns and the Providences and the Marquettes and the Villanovas of the world, that's not really gonna be must-see TV, or at least be getting the TV times that is gonna command the most eyeballs. So that's one reason. And the second reason is we are all just so accustomed to UConn's greatness that when UConn beats a team by 50 points, which has happened several times this season, it's like, oh, okay, well, UConn's just doing UConn things. They've set the bar at excellence and set the bar at perfection, that when they continue to meet this bar, it's like, oh, okay, just, same stuff, different story. So I think that they are one of the most under-talked about stories of the season because UConn is so dominant. UConn did have an undefeated season. UConn does very much so have a path of having a full undefeated season if they go on and win a national championship. This UConn team has what it takes to be one of the best that we've ever seen. And we're just not talking about it. And it's crazy because that's just the standard that they've set for themselves.
Well, and you're right. It is one of probably the most under-discussed story because so many people don't even realize how good they are this year. So I'll shoot on it. I think so much of it just comes down to narratives. We're used to watching UConn win so much. And what's funny to me is that this isn't UConn winning 10 years ago when maybe there were 2 teams that were really competitive, or 20 years ago when it was just UConn and Tennessee that battled it out every year. This is a much different women's college basketball landscape, yet UConn is still having this sort of a dominant performance. To me, that stands out as a reason that we should pay even more attention to it, because I don't think this is a story of women's college basketball being predictable or not performing well. I think this is a statement to the greatness of UConn. Unfortunately, for so many people, it's just impossible to see both sides of that. So a lot of people just look at it and say, well, UConn's dominating again as usual. Women's college basketball is one team and it's boring because they barely pay attention. To your point, there are more stars and there are more quality teams, I think, than we've ever seen in women's college basketball right now. But Caroline, I think what becomes problematic towards the conversations that happen in the future is I think UConn's about to run through the tournament the way they've run through this season. So, I've already sort of put my feet up and resigned myself to, I think UConn's going to be hoisting the tournament trophy, and they're going to do it by way of 20 or 30-point wins the entire way. I just want to get ahead of the conversation being anything less than for UConn, because it's the opposite of that. To me, it's even more impressive that they're this good in this climate, in this environment, particularly the way women's college basketball is built today.
Yeah, and there are now, like it used to be back in the day, it was the UConns and the Tennessees of the world. And that was really kind of about it. The UConn sat atop the throne of women's college basketball pretty much lonely by themselves. But now we see so much more money and investment being paid to women's basketball across the country. I went to LSU. I'll use that as the example. When I was in college, nobody really cared about women's college basketball. Nobody really cared about the team. There wasn't, it wasn't the hottest ticket in town. I would cover the team, and a lot of times it would be a fairly empty arena. Now, you can't not pay attention to LSU women's college basketball. You cannot not pay attention to what Kim Mulkey is doing and the talent that she's attracting. And that's just, I think, a microcosm for this sport as a whole. You're seeing the investment in the Big 12. You're seeing the investment at TCU. You're seeing the investment at UCLA, a team that does not have a very rich history in women's hoops. But now you're seeing UCLA as one of the best teams in the country for now the second year in a row. You're seeing the investment at USC. You're seeing the investment across the country, yet alone UConn still sits atop the women's college basketball world. So you have talent being spread across the country. You have investment across the country. It's now harder than ever to be a coach in any sport, because now you have the transfer portal, now you have NIL, now you have such different dynamics between coach and player, yet Geno still has found a way to excel in this era of college hoops. And it's really, really impressive. I know we give Geno his flowers. He deserves them. But it's almost like he's not even getting enough of them, even being the coach of the #1 team in the country.
Let's give some flowers to Michaela Blakes. All right, Michaela Blakes, again, Vanderbilt guard, continues to absolutely crush it. You mentioned the scoring, 27.10 points per game. She's actually a little ahead of Caitlin. So the question is, shoot, pass, and dribble. She is on a Caitlin Clark trajectory. What say you?
Yeah, I think we always need to just take these Caitlin Clark comparisons with a grain of salt. But I will dribble on that, because I think that Michaela Blakes has the ability to do for Vanderbilt women's basketball what Caitlin Clark did for women's basketball as a whole. I mean, when you talk about impact, Caitlin Clark is on an island of her own. I think that Caitlin Clark is invaluable to the sport as a whole. College basketball, WNBA, period. Like, somebody asked me, if you had to put a dollar amount on the value that Caitlin Clark brings to the W, what would it be? And I said, is $1 billion enough? $1 billion with a B? Like, Caitlin Clark has totally revolutionized this sport, period. There will never be anyone that comes closer to her. I don't believe, at least not anytime soon. But Michaela Blakes has made Vanderbilt women's basketball one of the hottest tickets in town. I've been to several Vanderbilt women's games, and it's largely represented more so by the fan base is more so represented by the team they're playing than it is Vanderbilt fans. Not anymore. Vanderbilt women's games, they sell out. You're selling Michaela Blakes jerseys in the pro shop, in the bookstore, wherever it might be. That Vanderbilt is now the #5 team in the country, and they very much so have the opportunity to be a 1 seed in the tournament. Vanderbilt has not won a tournament game in over a decade. So I think Michaela Blakes is revolutionizing the game locally at Vanderbilt and having that same kind of impact the way that we saw Caitlin Clark make an impact for the game as a whole.
Yeah, look, 100%. And I think that's why this gets really complicated to me, is that so often we want to turn around and we want to make these things bigger than just the moment, and we want to turn it into something that has to be historic. And that's one of the things we do in everything that we talk about in sports. I just think that sometimes we need to take some of the legends, like Caitlin, and we need to put them in a break glass in case of emergency. Like, hey, we're not going to invoke your name until we absolutely have to invoke your name, because at the end of the day, it's so hard. Caitlin wasn't just about the way she played. It was about the way she played differently than everybody else played at the moment. It was about just the phenomenon that was growing through all of it. There are so many different intangibles that stack on to make Caitlin Clark what Caitlin Clark was for women's college basketball and has become for the WNBA. It's not just about any one thing that Caitlin has done. It's about all of those things. I think it actually sort of reduces Michaela a little bit to try and compare her, when at the end of the day, it's almost impossible for anyone to be that. And it's almost always impossible to be the first, to beat the first at anything, right? Like, Caitlin just felt so transcendent as a pop culture phenomenon to this generation. For a minute, it's going to be virtually impossible. That's why I shoot on being Caitlin in this example, but it doesn't mean that I don't think that she won't turn out to be absolutely incredible. Just yet another reminder that there are a tremendous number of women right now in college basketball that are incredible basketball players. Just let them be incredible and each their own, and not make them all be Caitlin. It is going to be a wild tournament, certainly. and it's going to be fun to watch. We will have you updated every single second of the way as we get through all of that. But coming up next, from women's college basketball to the NBA, John Wall, legend, joins the show next. We'll get his thoughts on everything happening for Washington, for Kentucky, for all of it. We'll talk ball with Wall.
Peterson looked like the clear-cut number one pick in the first half of that game. He looked like the clear-cut number one pick. The fluidity on the floor, the ease in which he moved off ball defensively, creating havoc. He looked majestic.
Sometimes it just comes down to as simple as like, this dude moves the way basketball players are born to move. Was Kevin Durant the last college scorer that made it look as effortless?
Did you go to the casino after the fight?
Hell yeah.
How'd you do?
We're up.
Up?
We're up.
Well
Yeah,
done.
we're up.
Were you just walking around there after the fight and people recognizing you? Like, weren't you the guy that was just on the UFC?
Yeah, that's where I get recognized the most.
Really?
The other gambling legends, everyone recognizes me there. Anywhere else I go, no one knows me. But if I go there, everyone points me out.
The 72 Dolphins is infamously the no-name defense. This one's the too many name defense.
Too many names,
there's too many names.
Defenses were ahead of offenses this season for a lot of it. Like the best teams in the NFL had the best defenses. We're sitting here talking about this defense and how good it was and how hard it is to isolate one player. And yeah, that's the sport of football. It's a team sport. It's hard to isolate individual players, and Seattle really exemplified that all year.
We're ranking the actual threats from the absolute frauds.
Your contenders, who do you got?
My contenders. So I have Sporting, and I say that because they have had a strong top 8 finish over some other heavyweight teams. They're actually very, very hard to break down as a squad, and they're very, very strong in transition.
And they got a guy named Luis Suarez, which is fun. Just
guard your ears.
First and foremost, I want to thank all y'all for coming out. I know it's a snowstorm and some ice outside. But first and foremost, I want to thank the Leonsis family and the Wizards organization for giving me an opportunity to live out my dream to make it to the NBA. Coming from Raleigh, North Carolina, all I think about was making it to 18 years old. I never thought this was possible. I love y'all. This is my city. This is still my house. And I love y'all and thank y'all for the night.
That was just last month when John Wall was honored by the Wizards in D.C. We're honored to be joined by the legend himself right now. John, thanks for hanging out with us, man. What was that night like for you to get that recognition from Washington?
It was a great night. I think most importantly, just having my boys there, them not really getting the opportunity to see me play in the Wizard organization and see how much this city really meant to me. So I think just having them there, having a lot of my family and friends there, just being back around the organization, being able to see the young talent that they have and watching them grow and see the right path they're trying to do with the great trades they made and trying to see if they can get this franchise back to winning games, bringing some excitement back in the building. So for me, it was just a great day, a great moment, a lot of joyful things to be proud of. And like I said, just having my family there, that's what it was all about for me.
I'm so glad that you and your family got that opportunity just to celebrate everything that you brought to that organization. I mean, you were franchise leader in assists and steals, 4th all-time in points, 5-time All-Star. Did I get it all? Because I'm sure the list goes on and on and on, and everything that you brought to Washington. So, obviously you made such a big impact on that organization. What kind of impact do you think new acquisitions, Trae Young and Anthony Davis, could make for the Wizards this season?
I think they can make a lot. I think the most important thing for them is the impact off the court. I think being a basketball player, we all are expected to be great. And we all expected to go out there and show what we really can do at a high level. But those two guys have been in the league for a little while. They understand what it is and what it means to be in the community. I think that's the most important thing for them, is touching the community. The basketball part, we already know how special those guys are. I think the most important thing is just making sure you touch the community and be genuine, be yourself. Don't try to come in and be somebody you're not. This fan base will adapt to you. They will love you, and you can have a lot of fun here.
All right, so when we talk about upcoming teams, you're part of an up-and-coming team with the NBA's prime inaugural season. Really cool work that's happening there. What's it like for you to be working with them and be around the game in that capacity?
It's great. I'll be honest with you. It's not a thing that I ever thought about would be the next chapter for me or something that I would adapt to or fall in love with. But most importantly, you get to be around the game of basketball. You get to talk the game of basketball, which I can do for 24 hours every day. I show my IQ, my love for the game. I have so many great teammates. You got to shout out to Mina and the Prime family for just giving me an opportunity to get up there and broadcast what I can do about basketball, how much knowledge I have. So it's been surreal. It's been a great moment, a lot of fun. Been up there with, like I said, a great group of people. The nightcap is the fun part. You get to joke around and talk about the games that really went on, kind of bring up some of your stories. But the studio is amazing. Everything about it has been so amazing. So I'm super excited about being able to be a part of the team, and I can't wait to get back there this week.
So what's the biggest difference from when you were playing to what you're watching on the court right now?
I think the biggest difference is the game has changed. The game has evolved. Now it's a lot of switching 1 through 5, a lot of get up, a lot of threes in the game. And when I first came into the league, it might be 15, 23s combined between both teams. You probably have one guy, maybe two guys on your team that really can shoot threes. Now, every position can shoot threes on your team. So I think it's a lot different. And also, when I came in, you could chuck people coming across the lane. And it was the first team to 80 mostly won the game. So I think that's a big difference. But for me, I keep the same mindset I had coming into my rookie year. Like, I know the game very well, but I have to watch a lot of film. I have to study certain players, and you got to know what's going on. So that's really the only difference for me.
So I want to continue to let you flex your analyst muscle a little bit. We talk a lot here on the show about how crowded it is at the top of the East. You've got Cleveland, you've got Detroit, you've got New York, you've got Boston. If you had to pick one of those four, who do you think makes it out of the East and represents the East in the NBA Finals?
That's interesting. Right now, my team would be Detroit. I think the Knicks are the team that everybody expects to be that team because of what they did last year. But I think just the level that Cade Cunningham is playing on is phenomenal. He's a guy that can do whatever you need. I think having OG Anunoby trying to guard him, he's a guy that's 6'7", 6'8", physical, that can withstand the bumps and contact that OG gives them. But I just think the way they're playing, they got that grit, that grind attitude, that old school basketball, where they're not backing down from anybody. But also, the Knicks are a team that's right there, but my pick would be the Detroit Pistons. You can't forget the Cavs, they made a great trade for James Harden. So you got to try to figure out how that works with the last couple of games they got left before the playoffs start. And then, we're hearing a lot of noise about is Tatum coming back. So, Jaylen Brown has held it down most of the year and all the other guys. So it's going to be a fun race, but I have Detroit Pistons.
I do want to stick there with the Celtics for a moment, because when Jason Tatum went down at the end of last season, I said, if you're the Celtics, tear it down, tank, try and get a lottery pick, see if you can bring in AJ Debonsa. Shows how much I know. That's why I don't do what you do. The Celtics look like they could be a team that comes out of the East. What would be your approach with Jason Tatum? Do you think the Celtics should bring Jason Tatum back, see if they can make a little bit of a run here and make some noise?
I think most importantly, they shocked everybody. You lose 3 starters. Drew Holiday traded, Porzingis traded, Tatum out, Derek White and Jaylen Brown. But you have to give a lot of credit to Joe Mazzulla, and also you got to give a lot of credit to Jaylen Brown. A lot of people have always talked about, could he be a number 1 guy? He has proven he could be a number 1 guy on any team he plays for. And he also should be in the MVP race. That's how special he has been this year. And I feel like he's been the best two-way guy of defending guys on the other end, but also being able to score and lead his team on a high level. And also give a lot of credit to all the other role players, the great role players they have. Then they went and got Vucevic, a guy that can start for them, that can pick and pop, that can score back to the basket. They got to switch. But I think with Tatum, I think you ease your way into it. You don't try to force it. But I think he can help them out a lot. We're still talking about Jason Tatum, and we've seen guys come back from the Achilles injury that we didn't used to see before. You see, look at Kevin Durant now. Those guys have come back playing at a high level. Even me in my position, when I came back, I played well. I felt like my old self. So I think the key is for them is just how can they build a chemistry, and figure out how the flow goes with them on the court. adding some of the new guys. But they're a team you got to be reckoned with because they know how to win and they won a championship before.
All right, so let's take a look at the West then, because we're all obsessed with OKC, San Antonio, some of these teams. When you look at across the board, what team do you think in the West would actually give OKC the toughest run?
It's two teams. You just talked about one of them, San Antonio Spurs, a team that beat them 3 times out of 1. And when I break down that scenario and I try to tell people, OKC and Spurs kind of have similar people, same type of guys. You have a guy in SGA that can change and being so dynamic. You have a guy like Wemby that can impact the game in so many ways. But on the other end, OKC has guys that does the same thing the Spurs does, but the Spurs guys can put the ball on the floor a little bit better, in my opinion, and create a little better. So I think, that Spurs team is there, but you also have the Denver Nuggets. We can't forget Nikola Jokic. 3-time MVP. A guy that the team that almost beat them last year took them to Game 7, and I feel like they could have won that one, but Aaron Gordon pulled a hamstring Game 6, and he tried to go out there and give it a run in Game 7, but you could just tell he really wasn't himself. And they're still a team that's top 4, top 5 in the West right now, with Peyton Watson, who's an emerging young star for them that's been missing a lot of time with the hamstring, and Aaron Gordon's been out most of the year. And I was watching the game last night, and they just said they would probably be back in like a week or 10 days. So if they can get healthy, they're a team that's going to be reckoned with in the West. So those would be my 2 top teams.
And those 3 teams that you just mentioned, Denver, San Antonio, and of course OKC, that feels like the upper echelon of the West. And then you have this group of teams that are kind of lurking. You've got Houston, you've got the Lakers, you've got Minnesota. Which of those teams do you think could play spoiler to the top teams in the West?
I think the 2 teams you really could say spoil out of those 2 would be the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think adding IU, the way Bones Highland is playing now for them, and then you have Nas Reed, a guy that won 6 Man of the Year last year. That kind of get them extra bench scoring they needed and helps them get going. Anthony Edwards is one of the most exciting players in the league, so you know what he can do. He's known for being a spoiler for a lot of people and knocking teams off and getting to the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row. So that's a team there. And Houston Rockets, you have Kevin Durant. I think as long as those young guys can continue to follow him and understand what they need to do, their defense at a high level, he's a guy that's already been proven to be a closer for them. I think the most important part that we always talked about all year for them once Fred VanVleet went down was point guard. And I think that's one thing they have to solidify to try to make a run because they lead the league in most shot clock violation. There's no way you do that with a team like that and a score like that. But those would be my 2 teams right there.
All right, so obviously NBA legend, but we got to talk to you about Kentucky too, because we all know you're a Kentucky legend too. All right, they beat Vandy over the weekend, 19-10, but 19-10 isn't really the standard of Kentucky basketball. So right now, I feel like Kentucky fans are losing their minds. John, I got Kentucky fans out here telling me they need a GM, and that's why they're not getting elite prospects. How would you fix Kentucky basketball?
I think most importantly is I think they went and got a lot of guys. And some guys are talented, and don't get me wrong, are great D1 guys. It just all depends. You so much money now with NIL, you can give it out to so many guys. But the guy you're showing in the picture there, Lowe, that came from Pittsburgh, he's out for the year. He's a guy that's a good point guard for them that can run the show. But I think also the guy, Jaden Quinn, is the one that's not being able to play this year because of his knee injury. That hurt him a lot because you can see the difference he made when he came in, and he kind of gave him the extra boost at a guy that can score in the post, super athletic, and block shots. I think most importantly for them is just they haven't really been healthy with some of the guys they went and got in the portal, and that's kind of hurting their team. I think, you can have a GM, but at the same time, it's all about the fit. What style are you running? Do this style fit my style of play? And I think, Kentucky, like they said, they got rid of Coach Cal. They wanted to win. They want guys that's going to be there more than 1 year. They want guys that's going to come in and compete at a high level. They're trying to win championships. They want to hang banners. They don't care about just making the NCAA tournament or the SEC tournament. So I think that's the key for them is just trying to get the right fit, but also you got to stay healthy. That's the luck of any sport you play is being a great team and also staying healthy with a little bit of luck involved.
Yeah, to your point, you don't move on from a coach with a pedigree of Coach Cal and just be okay with being a middling team in the SEC. So from what you've seen from a less than 2 season sample size of Mark Pope, can he win a championship at Kentucky?
I think you can. Sometimes, You look at UConn, they went and got guys, and some of their guys are not 5-star guys. Some of those guys are 3 stars, 4 stars, maybe 2-star guys are just great role players. But the most important thing with all of this is just building the team chemistry, figuring out what fits, what works, what is our style of play. Are we going to be a gritty defensive team or a great offensive team that get up and down the court super fast and get up a lot of shots? But you just got to find what your team is about and build that identity. That's the most important thing. Once you get the identity, you know what you are. And I think that's the hard part of Kentucky because they lineup changes so much, they don't really know what their identity is. And also, I think at the same time, like I said, some guys are great D1 guys. Some guys are not supposed to put on those blue blood jerseys like a Kansas, Kentucky, Duke, Carolina. Like sometimes UConn, those jerseys got to go to some of those top guys, some of those right guys. And until you get back into that field, you got to figure it out. Because if you're telling me if I'm a kid that played at a lower D1 and Kentucky called me, for sure I'm going to take whatever offer you give me and sign to come play for that school because that's not probably a school they ever thought they would play for. So I think that's the most important key to getting all of it back right.
You've talked a lot about identity. Part of your identity is giving back. The John Wall Family Foundation is incredible. For anyone that doesn't know, you help disadvantaged families at risk youth, I should say. Shine a little bit of light on what you're doing and how you guys give back.
Well, it's really for me, I just do different things. You know what I mean? I have an opportunity to have a annual impact weekend every year in Raleigh, North Carolina during the summer around August. I mean, just to pride myself to give back and be there. Like most importantly, we can have all this money and do all those other things and have the cameras around. For me, it's about being present. Like in my event, say from 9 to 2, I'm there from 9 to 2 to let them know I'm just a normal person, just like them. I just have an opportunity to reach the highest goal, and that's playing the NBA. But most importantly, my foundation just allowed me to continue to be able to help people and families that have fallen on hard times and also been in situations like I've been in growing up. And I mean, it's most important just trying to help single parent moms or dads that's trying to make sacrifices to figure out how their kids can thrive and be in a good position to be ready for school. So I do like a backpack giveaway, I do turkey drives, I do Christmas giveaways, all those type of things just to try to fill that board and just take one burden off their back. And that's always a tough thing we always try to figure out when you are a single mom or single dad. Like, how can I help my kid be able to have school supplies or shoes for school or clothes on their back or toys for Christmas and those type of things. So my foundation prides ourselves on doing the little things.
You can watch them, obviously, on the Prime broadcast. You can check out more information. John Wall Family Foundation, all one word, johnwallfamilyfoundation.com is where you see what the foundation is up to. John, man, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for all the joy that you've given us watching you on the court, and all that you're doing off the court is really incredible. Thanks for the time, man.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
It's great stuff from John Wall. Coming up next, quarterbacks all across the NFL could be on the move. Will it actually solve any problems? We'll tell you about it.
You covered Darnold with the Jets. Where are you kind of just feeling about him?
Another game with 3 games in a row, no turnovers for Sam. The sack avoidance night from Sam was incredible. The back and forth between Sam and Milton Williams was honestly really impressive for Sam on my part because I thought that it wasn't his best game of the season, but it was the game he needed to have, which was clean. He won the Super Bowl. He's going to get a contract extension. It's kind of cool to see his redemption story.
What was it like being at MSG? Like in the back, the locker room? Like, could you feel that it was a little different?
It's a total different experience from being there as a spectator to actually being there backstage and all of that stuff. Total different experience. I was so tuned into my fight. I don't even think I was looking at the referee. I'm just there, just kind of just like looking down. I'm listening to what he's saying, but at the same time, I'm just thinking about the fight. I'm like, yeah, all right, y'all done? You ready? Right? Yeah. All right, it's time to go.
The Premier League has gotten so successful. Survival has become such a priority. Maybe that doesn't lead to the most entertaining football match.
The one thing that you want to avoid is having this runaway first place team by Boxing Day, which happens more often than not. This has been, I would argue, a little bit more exciting this season. The entire mid-table is packed.
Yeah.
So
as an Everton fan, I'm like, yeah, we in the mix.
For Clippers fans, I just feel bad, Tom. I mean, I feel bad. It's always something with the Clippers. It's always something. And then, the year begins and the whole aspiration thing, and then the team sucks. And then they start winning and they make a run and they're in the play-in and the playoffs are ahead. And then this all happens. James Harden does it again. He asks for another trade.
Jeremy Fowler tweeted out, Kyler Murray and Geno Smith are strong considerations for the Vikings at the quarterback position, with Tua and Kirk on the radar as well. Basically all of them, as they broke down some of the news from the Combine. And it's funny because the names you see there are a reminder that one man's trash is another man's starting quarterback this year, Caroline, because we are going to see a world where it looks like right now all indications are Kyler's going to get cut, Geno's going to get cut, Tua's going to get cut, Kirk Cousins is going to get cut. These are the guys that are going to be looked at for franchise saviors. So which one of those makes the most sense in your mind for the Vikings?
Can I say none of the above? Is that allowed? Because if I'm a Vikings fan and I just listened to everything that Justin Jefferson said in the offseason, how not pleased he was with how things went this past season, when I know what the weapons you have offensively, when I know how good that defense was, a top 5 defense in the NFL last year, this team should be a contender. This team should be in the postseason conversation. But the quarterback position is the most glaring and obvious issue and hole. So you're telling me, Kyler Murray is going to be the savior for this team. No thanks. I'm good. So I will go E, none of the above. I think the best option for the Vikings this offseason is Aaron Rodgers. When you are looking at a team that looks like it is ready and poised to win right now. Sure, Aaron Rodgers is not Aaron Rodgers of old. Aaron Rodgers, what you're going to get from his age 42 season is not going to be what you got from Aaron Rodgers in his back-to-back MVP seasons. But what Aaron Rodgers can do is win you football games. What Aaron Rodgers won't do is lose you enough football games to the point that you're going to be irrelevant in the postseason conversation. So, and look, is Aaron Rodgers the most perfect tailor-made fit in a Kevin O'Connell system? I don't think so, but also Kevin O'Connell is a bright enough offensive mind that he's going to be able to tailor his system to fit what Aaron Rodgers can do and bring you at this point in his career. So Kyler, Tua doesn't really do anything for me. Like, if I'm a Vikings fan, I'm like, no, thank you. I'm good.
You're not wrong. That's why I keep going back to Kirk Cousins, because there's enough love with the organization. And Kirk made it clear when the Falcons drafted Penix, one of the things that Kirk said afterwards on QB on the show was that if I'd known they were going to draft a quarterback, I probably wouldn't have left Minnesota, where he was competing with the young quarterback, right? So I think Kirk back in an offense that makes sense to him, back in a city he knows, a city that, frankly, his family knows. It eliminates some of the variables of learning new things. So I'm a big fan of walking back into a system. Like, I'm not sure you can ever get back together with your ex, but I'm a fan in this situation simply because so many life variables with Kirk Cousins seem to make more sense. If you're Aaron Rodgers, you got to figure out life in Minnesota while you're also having a translated offense from KOC. I like the concept of Kirk there much better. And that the wild thing is that while we're sitting here splitting hairs on what the right approach for the Vikings is, part of what makes it really complicated is I'm not sure what the Vikings should do with J.J. McCarthy. Like, I want to be honest here for a second. He's played 10 games. 10 games. So, like, I think it's asinine to give up on J.J. McCarthy, but I also think it's asinine to continue to go into every year and say, well, this is going to be the year that he's going to stay healthy. Like, at some point, you have to protect yourself. So, the Vikings here, I think, are in a very weird situation where I do believe they still want to give the runway to J.J. McCarthy to go out and prove that he can win the job. But you can't risk an entire season on that man staying healthy. So I believe that part of the reason this is so complicated is that the Vikings are screwed because they just haven't been able to keep JJ healthy on the field.
And that, I think, is a big question, is how do the Vikings feel about J.J. McCarthy? I know how I feel about him. I know how the fans feel about him. But what is their plan with J.J. McCarthy? Because it gets late early in the NFL, and they're going to have to make a decision on what J.J. McCarthy's future is. So you need to actually see him play football and watch him and decide, is he a franchise quarterback? Is he a guy that you want to sign to a fifth-year option and sign to long-term? You have to figure that out. But also, are the Vikings ready to give up on him? If so, then maybe you are looking at a younger quarterback option. Maybe Kyler Murray just needs a new, fresh perspective, just needs to get out of Arizona, just needs to be coached better. And you feel like Kyler Murray can maybe be your quarterback for the next 3, 4 to 5 years. I don't think that is what Kyler can be, but I think that you go to Kyler in a situation where you're ready to give up on JJ McCarthy. I don't think that you go out and get Kyler Murray if you believe there's still something there with JJ McCarthy. Because wherever Kyler Murray's next stop is, I think Kyler believes that he can be a franchise quarterback somewhere else. We don't have to believe that. You don't have to believe that, but he believes that. I don't think that's a very healthy quarterback dynamic to have a young JJ McCarthy who's been continuously banged up, who hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities to play football, but you still believe that he can be your future, while you have a former first overall pick in Kyler Murray who still believes that he can be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. That's not a healthy dynamic. If you think that JJ is going to be your future, bringing in a Kirk Cousins, bringing in an Aaron Rodgers on a 1-year deal, older guys who've seen a lot of football and won a lot of football can be viewed as more of a mentor for JJ McCarthy. And you can sell that to JJ. Hey, we're going to bring in Kirk Cousins. We're going to bring in Aaron Rodgers because we want you to learn from those guys. We want you to observe how they work. Kind of just get a peek behind the curtain of a franchise quarterback, of a quarterback who's won a lot of football. I think you can sell that a lot easier if you do believe that JJ is your future than maybe bringing in a younger guy and a Kyler or a Tua who presumably have a lot more football ahead of them than they do behind them.
Well, and at least Minnesota is hoping that they have an option. I'm not sure what the Jets are doing through any of this. Like, the Jets are sitting now with the second overall pick in the NFL draft, and this is almost historic to me. When you have the second pick in the draft and you have no quarterback and there's just no clear path to one. I don't know what the Jets are going to do at all. And if we start looking up and down this list, like Geno isn't going to go back to New York. I can't imagine that would happen. Kyler doesn't seem like a great investment long-term for a team that's going to stink, and I'm not sure Kyler's a great quarterback. I don't love Tua there. Kirk doesn't really make a ton of sense going to that sort of a bridge. Like, I genuinely don't know what the Jets are supposed to do at starting quarterback this year that's going to make sense for anybody.
Fitz, I think the Jets' plan is we're going to go ahead and let Jesus take the wheel. Like, we're going to let go and we're going to let God. That is the only plan that I could rationalize, is divine intervention, because I have no idea what else the Jets plan on doing. And the thing with, Kyler, Geno, Tua, and Kirk Cousins, all those guys that we just kind of trashed right there, they're also quarterbacks that are good enough that will win you enough football games to take you out of contention of the quarterback sweepstakes next season. At least I believe that they will. So, if you don't think that Ty Simpson is worthy of the second overall pick in the draft, I wouldn't take him there. Who knows what the Jets are going to do. Then I think that your best option this season is just kind of stink and hope for the best next year. But if I had to put my money on who I think is going to be their quarterback this upcoming season, I think it's Derek Carr. I hear Derek Carr saying that he doesn't want to be a stopgap quarterback. He wants to play for a team that's in contention. And Derek, I want $1 million. But sometimes things just don't really work out that way. I don't think there's any team in contention that says, you know what, we are just one Derek Carr away from being a Super Bowl contender. I don't think there's any team that's going to be willing to give Derek Carr a 3 to 4 year deal at 30, however old he is, 34, 35 years old, coming off of a shoulder injury. At least I wouldn't feel comfortable in doing that. He talked on his podcast about how much he loves Aaron Glenn. You can sign Derek Carr to a short-term deal, get him on the cheap, and then hope for the best, I guess.
Look, honestly, I don't necessarily hate that. If you look at his entire career, I've got it up here in front of me. He has had 3 winning seasons in his career. So the losing won't bog him down. Okay. He'll be good for that. Look, all jokes aside, though, I think at some point for the Jets, the hardest part about it is that their rosters, they're starting to rebuild. And this is why the draft is so helpful, because when you're starting to rebuild and you draft a young quarterback, you've got some level of hope. They don't have a path to a young quarterback at the first round that makes a ton of sense, so it blocks them from getting some hope. And frankly, at this point, I'd rather be the backup quarterback somewhere with a great quarterback mind head coach that's going to help rebuild my reputation than be the starter for the Jets, where I'm not going to get the best surroundings. I'm not going to have the best things around me. I might not get the best system. My team's going to suck, and I'm not going to put the best stuff on film. Like, we fall in love with Mac Jones playing a couple of games for San Francisco, not just because he's Mac Jones, but because he's playing a couple of games in San Francisco. So then all of a sudden it's like, oh, no, you want to trade for Mac Jones. If Mac Jones was the starting quarterback of the Jets next year, I wouldn't believe that Mac Jones was going to be successful. So for some of these guys, I think they're going to have to make the decision. Do I want to go start for an organization that is more than likely going to pay me a lot of money to start? Sure. And I get to be a starter? Yes. But I'm not going to put the best version of myself out over and over and over again. Or do I want to go somewhere where I can rehab my image, getting limited time underneath somebody that's perceived as a quarterback guru that suddenly is going to give me better market down the road, better market value down the road? If I'm Kyler Murray, I'd rather end up the backup for the 49ers, the Rams, somewhere where I believe that the coach is brilliant. I'd rather be the backup there than the starter for the Jets.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Take the Sam Darnold approach. Take the Baker Mayfield approach, where you kind of learn by osmosis with some of these, offensive guru masterminds. The question is, does that exist somewhere? Like, I don't think the 49ers are giving up on Mac Jones this offseason. I wouldn't. I'm not trading Mac Jones for a second.
He's not going.
That's not worth it to me. He's not going anywhere. What are you going to back up Matthew Stafford with the Rams? I mean, maybe. Like, I would rather take that approach than being the starter with the Jets, because I wholeheartedly believe that's where quarterbacks go to die. Like, you will go off into irrelevancy for the rest of your career if you spend time with the New York Jets. Anybody talking about Justin Fields this offseason? Anybody want to bring in Justin Fields for his efforts? No. Sam Darnold is lucky that he got to wash the stink off of the Jets enough to find himself to a Super Bowl. I don't know what the Jets do, because even some of these crap quarterbacks, I don't think want to spend any sort of time or even have a single cup of coffee with the New York Jets. Why would you?
We're about a week away from free agency, so we will find out then. In the meantime, we found out a lot this weekend about men's college basketball with some epic matchups and maybe some frauds walking out in the open. We'll tell you about it next.
Who's the dream fight? Like, who's the final boss for you?
Nyla Inoue.
Yeah, that's the one. Huh?
Yeah, I feel like he's the guy.
What a freaking fight that would be.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
How far away do you think you are from this, like, maybe being a thing?
I would say maybe a year.
Yeah.
Maybe just a year away. Yeah, it's
the
right
dream
there.
to try to, like, get more belts so that entices him to come after you? Okay.
100%. He's going to get a wake-up call fighting a guy like me.
And Kenneth Walker wins Super Bowl MVP.
The way he's kind of molded his game to work for him has been fun, because it's such a hard turn from where he started. Sometimes it feels like a more dramatic version of like how Le'Veon Bell used to run the ball, how Le'Veon would stop and wait and see things open. But Le'Veon, like, he was hugging the ass of his centers and his guards. Kenneth is he's like step back so he can see the whole picture open up. And then when it hits, he's off.
The Sixers, to me, are the biggest loser of the trade deadline. You get these middling picks for Jared McCain, one of your most promising young players, to duck the tax. Just a joke. If I'm a Sixers fan, I'm infuriated. The Sixers, losers this trade deadline. It's just so disappointing for Philadelphia, man.
Who in college football could experience that same level of redemption arc? And I was thinking, we've actually kind of seen it a little bit in the past. I'd say Jaden Daniels did. Remember when his teammates were like throwing his things out of his locker and talking trash about him when he left Arizona State, and then he goes and wins the Heisman at LSU?
It was a little bit of a turnaround. I wonder what those guys are doing now.
How about this stat from ESPN Research? Florida has now scored 90-plus points in 6 straight games against ranked opponents, the third longest streak in a single season in AP poll history. The only team with longer streaks are, UNLV and Loyola Marymount. Fine. Both in 1989, 1990. Oh, those epic Running Rebels teams. Maybe we talked earlier about the fact that maybe we're sleeping on the women's UConn basketball team being as great as they are, but man, are we sleeping somewhat on Florida here being potential repeat champs? They are out here in these streets with an offense that nobody can shut down.
Dude, Florida's terrifying. And Todd Golden is now coaching with a level of swagger that comes from winning a national championship and coming back and looking like yet again a national championship contender. And what Todd Golden has to back up the talk is that he walked the walk. He won a championship. Now he can come out and have a little squabble with Coach Cal, one of the most well-respected coaches in all of college basketball and is certified Hall of Famer, that he can come out like he did when Florida absolutely demolished Arkansas and talk with him and squabble with him with a level of swagger that only comes from winning. This team's terrifying. Like, this is not a team that I would want to, like, I think that Florida's now projected to be a 2. They could eke their way into being a 1. If they win the SEC tournament, get some help from some of the top teams around them, Florida could eke into being a 1 seed. But let's just say that everything goes chalk and Florida sticks as a 2 seed. I believe they're projected to be the 5th overall ranked team, so the top 2 seed in the tournament. If I'm a 1 seed and that's my 2, I'm pissed. That is not a team that I would want to see if I'm a 1 seed. We're not going to get all 4 1 seeds in the Final Four like we did last season. Like, that's no way we're going to get that 2 years in a row. Florida has the opportunity to play big time spoiler to one of these 1 seeds.
They have 5 players that are 6'10" or taller. Like, they just have so much size and so much length. They are such a problem. It's funny when you watch them, and I mean funny in a good way, but it's funny when you watch them because they just look taller than everybody else. And I'm not sure in the tournament, especially when you have quick wraparounds and you're trying to figure out how to best attack them, I just don't know the best way to attack this Florida team. I think we are sleeping on on how good they can be. It's tough for me to sit here right now and say they're a favorite to repeat because I do believe that March Madness is going to be wilder than ever. But, man, there are so many good teams. But I do believe that Florida deserves a little bit, maybe a lot more respect in this. I'm trying to figure out what to make of the 1 seeds, Caroline, because you just mentioned the fact that Florida is rising in this 2 situation. But, I'm just walking through my feels over the last week. Like, we watched Duke, Michigan, and we thought we learned a lot. We watched Arizona, Houston. We thought we learned a lot. But then you see Arizona over the course of a week go from oh my God to oh my God to oh my God. Like, I'm sitting here trying to figure out what to make because I honestly believe that the differentiation right now between whoever ends up with the number 1 overall seed and whoever ends up with like the 2nd or 3rd of the 2 seeds, I think we're splitting hairs on all of them. I think there are 6 or 7 teams right now that could absolutely win the national championship.
It's crowded at the top. You have a lot of jockeying really in the top 10. Like, we just talked about, Florida has a legitimate shot at repeating and winning a national championship this year, and they're the 7th ranked team in the country. And we're not talking about them enough because Kansas and Duke and Arizona and Michigan and Iowa State and all of these other teams that are in the top 10 look like they could also be national championship contenders. And I think this level of parity is really, really fun. You know, we talked about the women's side of things earlier. And while I do believe Texas and UCLA and LSU and Vanderbilt and TCU could all contend for a national championship, at the end of the day, it's like, if it's UConn or the field, I'm probably taking UConn. And I don't like to do that, but it just feels like this is UConn's championship to lose. On the men's side, if I have to hitch my wagon to anybody, I don't know. My answer might change week over week or day over day or game over game. Looked like that team was Arizona, but then I look what Duke can do, and then I look at the size of Michigan, and then I look at what Florida just did to Arkansas. They're playing their best basketball of the season at the most perfect and opportune time. So it changes. Frankly, it fits. My mind changes every single day about who I believe is the best team in the country or can win it all in March or can play spoiler in March. And that makes this really fun. We are heading into a tournament that looks like it could totally be silly season.
Think about on this show last week, I asked why we weren't giving UConn more attention on the men's side, right? And then I sat there and watched UConn on Saturday struggle against Seton Hall. And I just sat there and thought, man, just when I'm sitting here saying, okay, UConn needs a lot more credit, then I watched them like, oh, they don't have that guy right now that can just take over the game. Like Caravan and Paul, they're good, but they weren't taking over the game. And I'm sitting here watching it thinking, it took one day for me to realize I've lost my mind. Okay, so of the 1 seed resumes, which one do you think is maybe most likely to just fall flat and not make it to Indy for the Final Four?
For me, it's Iowa State, and I think it's because it has so much to do with how you're playing right now. And look, Iowa State has some big time wins on their resume, and I wouldn't be surprised if they made a run. But right now, Iowa State's not playing their best brand of basketball. They've lost 2 of their last 3. They lost at home against Texas Tech without JT Toppin, their best player. That's not the style of basketball that you want to be playing when you're talking about being a national championship contending team. I mean, they lost on the road at BYU, a team that is also struggling as of late. Iowa State also doesn't play their best basketball on the road. Like I mentioned, they just lost on the road at BYU. They lost on the road at TCU. Like when you can beat, the likes of Kansas State on the road and Oklahoma State, Kansas State just fired their coach. They lost at Cincinnati, and losing at Kansas is, look, it happens. But they're 5-4 on the road in their last 9 road games. You're playing a lot of games on the road in March Madness. So if you haven't been playing your best basketball recently, and you're not playing your best basketball on the road, I can't trust you, especially with all of the rest of these teams in the mix, the Dukes, the Arizonas, the UConns, the Michigans, so on and so forth. Iowa State right now is the team that I trust the least.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Iowa State belongs in that category. And full recency bias, because I'm now shell-shocked by what I saw against Seton Hall, I'll put UConn on that list also. We did get some college basketball news over the weekend. On Saturday, the 12th-ranked Cornhuskers went into USC and beat them 82-67. But the story out of that game ended up being about Chad Baker-Mazara, who is no longer with USC. This is breaking news. Chad Baker no longer on the team. He averaged 18.5, 4.2, and 2.8. You see right there. It should be noted that what we know is he is not with the team. We also know that in that game and in one other game this season, he took a hard foul and went to the bench and told the coaching staff he was unable to come back into the game. We do not know right now if he's no longer on the team because of USC or because of Chad Baker-Mazara. We don't know who the catalyst for this decision is. We simply know right now that a player that absolutely was supposed to be a building block for USC this year, supposed to be a star on this team, is no longer with the team as we head into the final stretch of this season.
This is all a very strange situation because there's so little information that we do know, at least right now at the time that we're discussing this on Monday morning. We don't know whose decision it was for Chad Baker-Mazara to no longer be on the team. Was it an Eric Musselman decision, the head coach at USC? Was that a Chad Baker-Mazara decision to step away from the team? Was it an athletic department decision to part ways with Chad Baker-Mazara? We don't know. We don't know the motivating factors as to why he's no longer with the team. But it feels like every single year there's another Chad Baker-Mazara story that's not a very good one. He hasn't had the best PR as of late, whether it's this season at USC, the situation with USC, or whether it's going back to last year in his time with Auburn. Very strange situation. But I mean, like Chad Baker-Mazara might be time to crank up the old LinkedIn. 26 years old.
Yeah, well, a report from the LA Times says USC didn't immediately offer a reason for his departure, but a person familiar with the situation, not authorized to speak publicly, told the Times that it was not one incident, but an accumulation of issues that led to his exit. You mentioned he's 26, and I just want to remind people that is not a misspeak in modern college basketball. You are talking about a 26-year-old that likely has played his last meaningful college basketball. We'll wait and see what that means for the last meaningful basketball of his career, Caroline, but certainly this ends whatever the chapter is in all likelihood of us really hearing Chad Baker-Mazara's name anytime around, particularly around college basketball.
Yeah, and look, we can have the jokes and it's about time that we maybe step away from the college game when you're 26 years old. I mean, if Chad Baker-Mazara and I grew up together, we would be we would be in middle school together. Like we would be in high school together. And I've been in the workforce for quite some time now. So we can joke about that. In all seriousness, though, I hope Chad Baker-Mazara is okay. I hope this USC team can continue to close out the season on a high note, even with all of these extracurriculars on the sideline. I wish nothing but the best for him and for Eric Musselman and this USC basketball program. Strange situation, though.
More Yahoo Sports Daily coming at you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thanks for watching. Come back. See us tomorrow.